if you'd like.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us to learn a little bit more about reducing food waste in our school. My name is Heather McCall. I'm the program director for Sustainable Jersey for Schools. We are a nonprofit certification program housed at the College of New Jersey, and we provide technical assistance, training, and grants to help schools that are looking to go green and save money. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the program actions in the Sustainable Jersey for Schools program, as well as the new food waste guidelines released by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection this past fall, and some examples from your peers in New Jersey schools that are doing things to make a difference in the realm of food waste. Um, the Sustainable Jersey program was founded in 2014. We currently have 954 schools participating, and 60% of the districts in New Jersey have registered and expressed a willingness to embark on this program for their schools. It is a certification program, and we ask schools to complete different actions in different areas of sustainability to become acknowledged and become a bronze certified school. You can see there's 223 of those currently, and we have another level which is silver, which is a higher level of activity. And only 18 schools have met that benchmark. Our certification is good for 3 years, and we ask schools to renew that so they can keep the momentum going. The program activities that we ask schools to take a look at is across 17 different action areas. Our definition of sustainability is a broad one. It's not just about recycling or water conservation. We believe that people are an important part of sustainability, and that's everything from food and physical activity to social, emotional, and school culture and climate issues, healthy school environments, asthma-friendly schools, communicating with the community and having involvement with the community, prosperity, which has to do with being able to prepare for the future, having funds, using education, using technology, and then the planet side, which is around energy and waste reduction. So we have a broad slate of program actions, and many of you come from schools that kind of pivot to different programs every year. One year they might be a school of character, or they might be a future ready school the next year, or they might be focusing on social emotional learning the next year. I want you to know that the Sustainable Jersey program can serve as an umbrella for all of those programs because we do acknowledge those activities and we do award points for those activities under the umbrella of our certification program. So there's no need to pivot from one program to another. If you're forming your green team and you're collaborating around Sustainable Jersey, you'll be able to tackle different aspects of a healthy school environment all under that umbrella of one initiative. Within those activities, we have guidance on our website that tells you why is this thing important, who should be involved, how long is it going to take, how much money you need in your budget. A lot of these activities are free. It's just organizing, exactly how to do it, what to submit electronically to us to prove that you've done it, and then examples from other schools and resource links from folks that are wanting to help you out with that. We kind of want to be a spoke in the wheel where all of that information comes together, so you don't have to spend 18 months researching a particular topic or a best practice. Today we're going to be talking about food waste, and we have a suite of actions that cover food waste, and we did talk a little bit about recycling last week, so we're going to be talking about food waste reduction today. If you are interested in finding out more, you do have the ability to see what other schools are doing on our website. So you can click on the activity that you're looking to learn more about, and you'll see all of the schools around the state that have completed that activity. You can click on one of those pins. Uh, you can read the story, how they completed that activity, and you can even download evidence so you can see their policy and you can borrow it for your. If you're an educator, you can say, show me all of the language sustainability learning into
Heather, hold on for a second. Heather?
you can do the search by county and look for a pin for your school and find out who to talk to at your school. The other thing that we offer are grants. NJEA has been a fabulous supporter of our program, and we offer $10,000 and $2,000 grants every fall, sponsored by NJEA. We've given out $1.8 million in small grants so far. NJEA supports one round, and PSE&G supports the other round in the spring. And you can use those funds for any action in our program. So whether you want to focus on school food waste or recycling, or whether you want to do PD, or anything else, as long as you can tie it back to one of our program actions, you can use those grant funds for that. You can also use the grant funds for stipends. One of the core components of our program is the green team. It's required once you participate in our program, and it's a diverse group of folks across the school community. So oftentimes it's the only time that the facilities director might be in the same room with the science supervisor. And you have this opportunity for communication that you may not have before, or because people are working across different silos. I remember one school that I visited, it was that scenario where the facilities director was talking about how the building was LEED certified and a green building, and the carpet was made out of recycled soda bottles. And the science teacher's mind just was blown, because he could have been talking about the building as a learning lab had he known that. So the green team is a core mandatory function of our program. And this is a really great team in Winslow Township Middle School. You may be saying to yourself, oh goodness, it's another meeting, I don't have time for this. You can take an existing team at your school, whether it's a social emotional team or a school wellness council, and augment it with like your school food service provider or your facilities director, and have it function as your green team. We do see schools divide the agenda. So they have an hour meeting or 45-minute meeting, and they'll do half of it with green, half of it with wellness activities. So there's a couple different ways you can slice that. You can have your green team at the school level or at the district level. So on to food waste. There is a waste reduction wave happening across the nation, and particularly in New Jersey and in our tri-state area. In New York, they have a zero waste schools initiative where they have over 100 schools looking to become zero waste schools, meaning that they do not put more carbon output into the atmosphere than what they take in. So they're reducing their footprint with energy, they're reducing their footprint with waste, and a whole host of things, including green cleaning. We have on the municipal level bans on plastic bags and straws in municipalities. I should also mention that our program is a outgrowth of a very successful municipal program called Sustainable Jersey, and that was formed 10 years ago. And currently, 85% of the towns in New Jersey have green teams working on environmental projects through our municipal certification program. There's also polystyrene, styrofoam legislation working its way through our state capitol to ban styrofoam in state universities and public school cafeterias. So there's a lot of stuff coming down the pike that we need to be prepared for in our schools. Additionally, we have students that are looking at the impact on their planet. They're seeing videos of giant pools of waste out in the middle of the ocean and thinking about what they're doing to contribute to that or reduce that personally and at the school level. So they're coming to They're coming to school board meetings. The folks at Long Branch, the students decided to ban straws in their cafeteria. And then well, it started with a beach cleanup because they are a shore community. And they noticed the extreme amount of straws. And then they thought about what's happening in their cafeteria, and they decided to eliminate straws in their cafeteria. And then they took it another step forward and went to town council meetings and then asked businesses in their community to no longer have disposable plastic straws. And you can follow them on Twitter at #strawfree in LB. A lot of times we think about reducing food waste in our cafeteria being something that's going to cost money, like the alternative product, the compostable tray, or the soy-based utensils are going to cost us more money, and we just can't do it. Well, here's a case where a single student said enough and said, I'm not really buying that this is going to cost money. I'm just going to ask people in my community to donate their extra flatware. And he did get um, enough flatware for the cafeteria. And so now they just use real live silverware in the elementary school in Cape May. And this was a personal drive that he took on, and it didn't cost the school any funds. And, because he did the homework, he says, down there, our school uses about 400 single-use plastic forks and spoons every day. It's about 72,000 a year. And in their particular county, they're not recyclable. So he made the case, and he successfully um, brought an alternative into the school. Students again, this is a high school in Hunterdon County, which made a tunnel out of plastic bottles to illustrate the plastic bottle use in their school on a daily basis, to have students think about making different choices and using refillable water bottles. This is a Middlesex County VOTEC dance program that made a whole dance production out of garbage. You can see the giant wave in the right hand corner made out of plastic bottles, and their costumes are completely made out of plastic bags. And it was a commentary on waste. So the pressure is coming from the students. Meanwhile, the state of New Jersey has created school food waste guidelines, and you can find them on the Department of Environmental Protection's website, or you can Google NJDEP School Food Waste Guidelines. It's found on the State Environmental Education Directory, SEEDS. So if you are a educator, the SEEDS homepage also has a lot of great links for training and resources and grants that we sort of copy over into our e-newsletter as well. But it's a great hub. But you can see the food waste guidelines there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those guidelines and what they mean by school food waste reduction, and some things that you can do in your cafeteria. So why is the waste reduction important? We waste more food today than we did in the 1970s. And it's a huge cost for us. And at the same time, we see in our schools students who are food insecure, where the meal that they receive at school is the only food that they substantial amount of food they might receive during their day. They it's a place where folks in a food desert that don't have nearby healthy food options get food at the school. And it utilizes a lot of energy to produce that food that we are wasting. One of the concerns about global warming and environmental changes is greenhouse gases, and food waste is a methane producer. So it 20% of municipal solid waste that's sent to the landfill is food waste. So if we were able to make a dent in that, particularly at the institutional level at your school, you would be making an impact in reducing the greenhouse gas. Methane is 84% more potent than carbon dioxide. We hear a lot about carbon dioxide, and the methane produced by the food waste is significant. So when we're talking about food waste, we're talking about food that would otherwise be fit for human consumption, but ended up being sent for disposal. Things that trimmings, like peels or spoiled food, things that we might put in a compost bin at our home. Um, this could be things left on your plate, things that are unsold, trimmings from restaurants, grocery stores, cafeterias. We're seeing a little bit of that now, aren't we? Now that the restaurants have been closed, there's potatoes out in Idaho that are not being shipped and not being utilized. And that's a significant source of food waste that we're experiencing right now due to the pandemic. The guidelines resulted from a bill that was passed in 2017, and it focuses on three different areas: the reduction of food waste, food recovery and repurposing, and food recycling. So it's something that the Office of Sustainability at the Department of Environmental Protection supports. So it talks about reducing, recovering, and recycling, how you can move lessons about that into your curriculum and in your programs, ways you can handle the surplus food, how you can do things like food sharing tables at your school, and ways that you can safely and sanitarily repurpose and donate your excess food to nonprofit organizations. So it was signed in August 2017, and there is a 50% reduction goal in food waste by 2030. So collectively as a state, not just schools, but as towns too, we are looking to reduce food waste in New Jersey by 50% by 2030. The food waste legislation was also signed at the same time for the schools, and requested that they be written for the K-12 and higher education fields. EPA has a pretty robust resource program. They have a food recovery hierarchy under the EPA.gov food scraps website. It prioritizes things that schools can do to make an impact towards reducing, recovering, and recycling food waste. As you look at this pyramid, the things at the larger area up top are the things that make the most impact. So the first thing we're going to talk about is source reduction. So reducing the volume of surplus food that is generated. If you can make a headway in the reduction, you can reduce the expenses in both the purchasing and also the volume in your disposal and impacting your disposal fees. And you can, not throw food out. Some things to do to help you with that. There is the Smarter Lunchroom movement. So the way that you package food to make kids interested in making those choices, you can see that they're in individualized cups or packages. So the students have the options to pick what they actually want to eat and select it versus, today is fruit cocktail, canned fruit cocktail, and everybody gets that. So it's making those choices more readily available in the right portions and the right options for students. There are school gardens through the Farm to School program. When students understand a little bit more about where food comes from and the work involved in producing it, it often makes them feel differently about food. A common thing is to have tastings in school. So they may have a hydroponic or aquaponic tower in the school that's growing herbs, but they don't know what that herb tastes like, so they might make a pesto out of it and have regular tastings in the cafeteria where a student can get to know a vegetable and be more comfortable with eating it. The offer versus serve option. So that's where you give students a choice. Again, they're not having to take exactly what's offered to them, but they must choose at least 3 items. Um, they must choose a half cup of fruit or vegetable and 2 other components, or they can select all 5. But again, giving the students the options to choose only what they want to eat on that day will result in less being on their tray and less ending up in the garbage or composter. And then there's production records that you can look at what has actually eaten and adjust accordingly your food purchasing through this tracking spreadsheet through the Department of Agriculture. Another thing that impacts the amount of food waste, and it's something you can do to maybe reduce it, scheduling lunch after recess, if that's a possibility. The kids are hungrier, they've worked up an appetite, especially if your school is got everything crunched in and the kids are coming in for a very early lunch, like a 10:30 lunch. They're just not hungry yet, and you'll see the food waste be a result of that. Possibly lengthening the lunch periods. If your school has just a 15-minute lunch period, that's not enough. They need time to get their lunch, to socialize. Um, Even if you can just stretch that out to 20 minutes, um, or to 30 minutes, the kids will eat 10 to 15% more just by giving them an extra 10 minutes. And that's what the studies have shown. The next method you can utilize is the recovery method. So that's where you take your extra food and you use it to feed hungry people. Food banks, soup kitchens, shelters. It strengthens your connection with the community. It helps your local nonprofits. It recovers that food, and instead of it ending up in the garbage disposal, it's sent out into the community. Um, so a lot of schools do social projects. They'll do penny drives, they'll do coat drives, all kinds of drives. And so if your school has a mission or a requirement to have service programs, this can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You're reducing and repurposing that food and fulfilling a service mission. And it will change how students think about their food. Um, what you can donate, you can donate whole, unopened, or uneaten food, non-perishable items like shelf-stable items like granola bars. Um, if you have a mechanisms in place, like I know in Galloway, they do this. They have a refrigerator on site where the kids can put the milk and the yogurt and the fruit cups in there, and they will stay stable until such time as they're picked up by the food bank. Another thing that's done is food share tables, where other students could redistribute their food. Again, it has to be unopened, unconsumed, and so maybe some days a kid's still hungry after eating their lunch. They can grab something extra, or a kid has something of excess, and we're seeing this more and more at schools. As we go down the pyramid, we see recycling. So you've done the most that you can under reduction to make sure it doesn't happen in the first place. You've moved it on to repurpose it, and now you're looking at alternatives to sending it to the landfill. So there's 3 types of ways to recycle it. You can donate. You can divert the food to animal scraps. It can be used as an energy source, or you can compost it. So composting is complicated for schools. A lot depends on how much land you have around your schools, and the amount of compost that you're producing. Um, at a certain point, it becomes commercial composting, and there's permits that you need. But for schools that have school gardens where they can repurpose that right on site, that's really, really great. This is the most common thing we see in schools is compost bins, compost tumblers. You can put food scraps from fruits, vegetables, grains, wood chips, sawdust, leaves. It does have to be maintained, and it does have to be situated in such a way that it's not encouraging pests, such as mice, so you want to keep it a little bit away from the school building, but it is something that students can be involved in, and it's a great opportunity for student learning. I mentioned the pest control. Adding meat and cheese is a no-no. You want to make sure you have the lids on there, and you want to make sure that you're turning them over so it doesn't get so warm and toasty that our friends want to be a part of that. More and more, we're seeing anaerobic composting. There's these things called rocket composters, and actually, Leonia School District has started installing these, and they process food waste in an extremely rapid manner. And you can put a more diverse cross section of food waste in there. So, meat, bones, fish, dairy, baked goods, paper towels, paper. There's less odors. Um, but they are costly. So if you are looking to do something like this, maybe you're at a high school and you have some students who have the capability to work with this, you can apply for one of our grants, like a $10,000 grant to get one of these on site at your school. Um, so those are some of the methods that you can use. The other things, we talked about the straw ban, the real utensils. In an elementary school in Princeton, they've done away with disposable items at classroom parties. So what they've done is created a bin for each classroom that has real plates, real utensils, and real cups. And after there's a celebration, the room parent takes that bin home, puts that in the dishwasher, washes it, and then brings it back so that each time they have a celebration, there's not a ton of debris from that. A lot of schools are moving on to compostable trays. Some are going back to good old-fashioned trays, hard trays like we used when we went to school, and reinstituting the dishwashers. Um, and then implementing other things like recycling stations for TerraCycle, which will recycle chip bags, Capri Sun bags, and juice boxes, and give your school a reward for those donations. Want you to know that you have support. In addition to the resources on the Sustainable Jersey website, there's some folks out there that you can talk to. There are county recycling coordinators. There are municipal recycling coordinators. Those are folks whose job it is to help you sort out your recycling situation, and they are free. There's also master composter programs out through Rutgers, and those are volunteers who are getting certified in composting, and they have to do so many hours in order to receive that certificate. So they're more than willing to come in and speak at your school and help you situate where a composter might be feasible. The other option is the Association of New Jersey Recyclers. If you were on the training last week, we showed a short video. They have a YouTube page. Again, that's the Association of New Jersey Recyclers, and they talk about food recycling, how to conduct a waste audit to see what types of waste you have in your school, and how much of a difference it would make if you did institute these alternative methods of recycling above and beyond paper and metal recycling. The links to those are in the resource section of all of our actions in the Sustainable Jersey program. And the food waste audit is something you can do with students or with your staff. And it can be a really great math lesson as they sort and weigh the items. One of the superstars in food waste reduction is in Leonia. They have a website called zerowasteleonia.com, and that highlights all of the really cool things that they're doing in their district across all of their schools to reduce waste. So again, that's Zero Waste Leonia. They are the first school in Bergen County to do a milk and juice recycling program. And as you can see, they've created this station, and the students come up to with their tray, and they dump out the liquid, and they put their other waste in another bucket, and then they put their carton finally in the last station. So this was something that they got a Sustainable Jersey grant for. And then they also got a grant from recyclecartons.com. That's the Carton Council of America's website. And what they did is they increased recycling of paper cartons, the milk containers, which they had never done before. And they increased revenue to their town by decreasing the cost of trash disposal. So the school district pays to dispose of the trash about $70 a ton, but they receive a credit of $60 a ton for recycling. So it ended up making a financial difference for their school that they implemented this carton recycling program. And then as far as the custodians go, it decreased their workload. So they might have been, emptying 5 or 6 heavy bags filled with liquid during the lunch period, and now that had been significantly reduced. Um, we see initiatives from schools like waste-free lunch days. You heard of like Meatless Monday. We see Trashless Tuesday, right, where students are encouraged to pack a lunch that doesn't use any packaging that would need to be thrown away. So Trashless Tuesday is something that we see a lot in our schools. Having receptacles in your school, again, this is something that your recycling coordinator or utilities authority or a Sustainable Jersey grant can help you purchase so that you can institute this in your school. In the Black Horse Pike School District, they have a commercial composter that comes. Its name is Organic Diversion, and they will come and pick up the compost from the school cafeteria. So they provided mobile carts for the students to put their food wastes, and then the science department also uses a portion of that food waste for their organic garden, and that waste comes from their food class. So instead of dealing with the food waste on site with their own huge composter for everything, they're just dealing with the food waste from the class, and then that cafeteria stuff is picked up by a commercial composter. And they are in South Jersey. I don't know of any connections yet for a commercial compost pickup company that will service the northern part of the state, but does do south and central. John Witherspoon Middle School. You saw the picture earlier. I think it's this is theirs, the compost, recycling, and landfill. They have that 3-tiered system. So actually, they have another one too that's a 5. So they have a liquid dumping station, a recycling station, a food waste, a trash, and a tray return. And this is something that resulted from their student-led green team. So when they put these bins out, they lowered the contamination in their bins to 4% and the recycling bins to 3%. They did a waste audit at the beginning of the year, and then they did it again at the end of the year to see how far they had come and how everyone was cooperating to, with the recycling program. And they removed about 14 pounds of liquid material from the trash per day. And over time, that equated to almost 2,600 pounds of highly methane producing material out of the landfill. Their waste audit showed that out of the total 141 pounds of discarded waste, the food waste that they sent to the compost was 40%. So they took almost half of their waste out of the landfill by instituting these food waste reduction and composting strategies. And half of that was getting rid of the liquid waste and the compostable waste. In Egg Harbor Township, they use on-site composting, and they use that finished compost in their garden beds. And in Galloway, they have an on-site compost bin that the students maintain. More about Galloway. This is Reeds Road Elementary School. The collection bins in the cafeteria, they have them for fruit, vegetable, and bread waste. Over 21 gallons of food waste are collected each day from the school cafeteria. Staff members and students are trained. They're trained on the correct measurements for nitrogen and compost. So, they're putting leaves and dried grass and paper in there as well, so they get a great finished product. The partnerships are necessary. Again, if folks aren't doing it right, either you don't have the right receptacles, you don't have the right place to put it, or you're not allowing enough time for the students to go through the line and separate things, it may not be successful. So, your school garden is a good place to repurpose the food waste. You have the example of private pickup in the Black Horse Pike Regional School District. And then this is the only school district that's doing this in the state. In Washington Township, this is the Morris County, Washington Township, they actually repurpose their school food waste to a local pig farm. And that farmer comes and picks up their food waste and gives it to his livestock. So that's the only example I know about now, but it's a really great program. And in talking to the facilities director about that program, he said at first it took a little bit of time to get the students to go through and do the separating, but they start with the younger grades in the elementary. And so by the time these kids move up through the school system, they know the drill, and they've become very efficient at sorting and separating at the end of their lunch period. So, as our program evolves, we've been around for 5 years, and as more schools become certified and we see more evidence from schools and we see more grant projects come through, we will have more great examples to share with you about how your peers are taking on and tackling food waste, because we can do it together. So I'd like to hear any questions that you might have specific to your school. Again, the school food waste guidelines are available. They're linked in the resource section of all of our waste actions, as well as searchable on the DEP website. There's way more in there than we had the time to talk about today. But it is a goal for our state to reduce food waste by half by 2030. New York is beating a path to zero waste schools. Zero Waste Leonia is setting the bar really high. So I encourage you to take some of this information and this encouragement back to your school. Utilize our grant programs. You just have to be registered with Sustainable Jersey to be eligible. You don't have to have everything together and be certified. You just have to be registered. And that's takes a resolution from your school board and a sign up by your principal for your individual school. So we would love to see you take advantage of the next round sponsored by NJEA. That opens up the first week in August, typically during the summer leadership event, and that runs through the end of October. So think about how your school might be able to use a $2,000 or a $10,000 grant to move forward your school food waste efforts.
Thanks, Heather. Are there any questions for Heather out there? I mean, I know I have one, but I want to see if anybody else does first. So any questions for her? Feel free to unmute your mics. You can see it down on the lower part of your screen. You can do that and fire away. Well, then I'm going to ask my question. And a lot of it has to really do with the COVID virus and the idea that, I mean, I know a lot of the restaurants are now pulling away from sustainable things and going more towards disposable things, which your silverware, your trays, and all of that stuff, your menus and everything else. Which to me, as a tree hugger and all of that stuff, that totally believes in that, it's killing me at the thought of that. What what would a school be able to do, but yet still participate in the program with that challenge?
Well, we don't prescribe to say the only way to get acknowledged for this is if you went back to old-fashioned trays, or the only way to get acknowledged for this is if you get rid of your penny a piece styrofoam trays and spend the dollar compostable trays. We look at the methods that are right for you and right for your school. So it may be getting rid of straws. It may be moving. I think in Long Branch, some of their schools actually have baskets with liners. They haven't. So we don't say that one approach is better than the other, because for some, the amount of water that they use to wash those trays is more than the energy to compost those compostable trays. So yes, we do want to reduce the amount of plastic. We want to reduce the amount of things that are going straight to the landfill. So to the extent that we can reduce or reuse or recycle those elements, we want to do that. So as far as COVID goes, a compostable tray is better than a styrofoam tray or a plastic tray. A different choice in material for your utensils. You might go with a recyclable, soy-based or vegetable-based, you know, uh, disposable fork, or spoon. With the utensils, if they're being washed at the school, those are high capacity industrial dishwashers with
Mhm.
high heat, and I think that they're gonna do the job of cutting that waste. But I do see now, with the pickup of free lunch happening, at the school or through a school bus, that all of that is disposable and wrapped and packaged up, because it has to be available for those students over the course of a couple days. So yeah, that is a challenge. Um, that's why we provide a menu of activities for
Mhm.
schools. So now may not be the right time for them to do um, certain activities, but maybe they will work more on the social emotional side this year, or they will work on their technology initiatives this year, or while the building's closed, they'll work on their energy efficiency initiatives. And then when things begin to normalize again, they might pivot back to some of the other initiatives that might be on hold this year. But the key thing that I want you to get out of today's presentation is that it's doable, and other states are doing it. Um, Other cities are doing it. Other school districts are doing it. Your students are going to drive you to do it, and so I want you to be armed with some of the approaches that you can take, because it's likely that your school can do at least one or two of the things we talked about today. Whether it's getting rid of the liquid and doing a milk carton recycling program, or whether it's separating the food waste, or whether it's doing a share table, or looking at donating the food. Those are some things that you can implement when folks come back together, whenever that is. Um, yeah.
We're adopting a pig farm. How cool is that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Love that. Um, Anybody else with any questions for Heather? Sorry, my husband just dropped something over there. No okay, looks like there's no questions today. So, Heather, I want to thank you so much for coming out. Heather, and well, I guess all of us, we get the next Monday off because of Memorial Day. I can't believe we're actually saying that at this point.
Yeah.
Crazy. On June 1st, you're coming back, same time at 1 o'clock, and you will be doing Stop the Soot anti-idling measures for schools.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
would be a little bit more about the air pollution, I would imagine, at that
Yes,
point.
outdoor air quality, and it's a job for everybody.
Okay, awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Heather. Thank you, everybody that came out today. Enjoy what you can for the rest of this day, and we'll see you guys later. All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
All righty. Bye bye.